The Google Pixel 4 XL, and if you follow my channel, you know one of my all-time favorites. Still love this phone. I want to talk about it because we've been talking a lot about Google, especially with the Pixel Fold, and to me, the 4XL represented a turning point in how Google handled their hardware and their phones and the direction that they were taking everything in. And we'll talk about how it still functions today, which is quite well, and you could still use it, and you could still use it on the network of today's video partner, Mint Mobile. If you're tired of paying too much for your cell service, then Mint Mobile has a solution for you, especially now with their best plan, their unlimited plan, running at 50% off. $15 a month gets you great 5G speeds and coverage. So use the link in the description or the QR code that you see on screen and get started today. If you have an older device, they could send a SIM card out to you. If you have a newer device, give them a call, speak to a live human being, and get set up with an eSIM. You can get set up in as little as 15 minutes, so there's no excuse to not switch over and start saving money today. Use the link in the description. Does directly help the channel, but thanks again to today's video partner, Mint Mobile. And we're back, so let's talk about the Pixel 4 XL, because I think it represents what Google does well, even to this day on the hardware side. But I think later in this phone's life cycle, as it got updates, some of those software quirks started to creep in that have kind of plagued Google a little bit in the last few years. So let's talk about this device as a whole. Number one, let's start with that hardware, because boy, is it fantastic. Every time I pick up this device, I remember when flagships could be light, they could be powerful, they could be premium, they could be well-made, and not 14 pounds. This device. And that wasn't Google specific at the time. Samsung, others, you pick up any flagship from 2018, 2019, it still mattered that it was light and thin, but could still do the job. We seem to have forgotten that a little bit as we've moved forward, but no matter. This is a great device to hold. You get that frosted matte finish on the white glass back of the device. You've got the black rail here as well with the accented power button, that orange, calling back to the days of the Panda, the Pixel 2 XL, which is why I got this, by the way, because the orange color, that limited edition orange that the 4XL came in, was no slouch. That was a great looking phone. I would have picked that up. In fact, if I pick up another one of these for like the collection or something, I'll get the orange one. But I had to do it. Once I saw that orange power button, I just had to do it and get the Panda Part 2 that was available on this device. So the hardware, they absolutely nailed. No problems whatsoever. Let's talk about Face Unlock. Soli we're going to talk about in a minute. But Face Unlock on the Google Pixel 4 XL to start was excellent. When you compared it to iPhone, were there more, I don't want to say errors, but were there more instances when it made you try to attempt it a couple times on the Pixel 4 XL than on Apple? Yes. Okay. It wasn't plaguing you, though. It wasn't annoyingly so. There were just a few instances where it would require me to do it a second time. But when it worked, the speed was significantly better than Face Unlock for Apple's devices. This was a great experience on Soli with the Face Unlock for the Pixel 4 XL. It was great to start. Really loved seeing that. Would I have loved to have seen kind of a backup fingerprint sensor of some sort? Yes, especially because of what happened later on. But at the beginning, it didn't bother me as much because it worked well. Then we kind of get to the software experience. This device started out, I think it was Android 10, really well. No problems. Loved it. I loved Android 10. I thought that was the sweet spot. That was the high watermark for Google. Loved it on Android 11. No problems there either. It was when Android 12 came out. And, aesthetically, I don't like Material U. I've made that known. I don't like the change. I think we went from stock Android to a Pixel experience, which was kind of the point, I guess, on Google's part. They wanted to kind of make their branding known with that. That's okay. But then you started to have some issues creep in. On Android 12, Face Unlock on the 4XL broke. You had that stupid thing where please wipe the bar at the top and all the rest of it, even though it was clean. You're doing it a million times. You had to restart your device. I don't know how many times a day. It was a disaster, and it didn't need to happen. I don't know why it took so long to fix as well. For me, it took a few months before they figured out a fix for that so you could use that. You were putting in your PIN, you were restarting your device 3-4 times a day just to get it to unlock, which was taking a great device that they had with the Pixel 4 XL and turning it into a quirk monster that then became frustrating. And people, instead of going, gee, I can't wait to see what Google does next, they're like, I can't wait to get out of a Google device. And, you know, love them or hate them, that's kind of where that started. Pixel 6 was around that time. So you got this, you were using it, you were loving your 4XL experience, and then it was ruined for you. And I think a lot of people ran into that. And it just is indicative of what is kind of gone on with their software decisions and some of the things that they do with their updates here now in the future. This was also the last run running, what phone that they made running a flagship Snapdragon 855. They went away with it. Originally, I agreed with that decision. The Pixel 5 having the 765G, I thought that was good because Google wasn't going to win or keep a lot of market share just making another Snapdragon variant of what everyone else was doing. They weren't going, you know, you had Samsung making one, you had LG at the time making one, you had Sony making one, OnePlus making one, you know, go on down the line. Google was just going to be an also-ran if they kept with making another Snapdragon phone. So I originally they tried like let's do some mid-range phone and have our Google extras, the kind of Pixel extras, be what drives the value there and makes people go for it. But then they went their own route with Tensor, which I agree. Some differentiation there is good. Make those Google Tensor specific features that will get people to buy it over a Samsung or the competitors. So that's something I agree with. It's just been the implementation of that I think has really held them back in my mind from what used to be just really well-made devices, well-optimized devices that had good, clean software experience that if you wanted that stock Android on a device that was beautiful 2K display, no problems with that, 90 hertz, super smooth, still runs great to this day, by the way. If you pick one of these up cheap, you're out of support, but or you're going to be out of support. You may have just been out of support, I think, last year, yeah. But it's still really good. No issues with that. But it's just now where you're to the point where you're seeing these devices come out, and Tensor is either a lot of overheating. I don't have as much overheating as other people, but a lot of overheating. You have a lot of issues with battery life on Google devices now. The 7a has poor battery life. The Pixel Fold has poor battery life. It's just the optimizations that were locked in a little bit better when they were running Snapdragon chips are not there on the Tensor side. I'm not saying they need to give it up. I'm not one of those people that says, you know, they need to forget the Tensor experience and get back to these flagships where they were running a Snapdragon from Qualcomm and you can have this, whatever. I just think that they need to focus back on the user experience because that used to be the core. You know, they didn't care about they had the forehead here, Soli, that they got rid of, which was, you know, one of their projects that they kind of ditched. That's why I take a wait-and-see attitude to the Fold, right? If they don't like the way something is going, they could promise all these features, they could promise all these updates and fixes, but there's also a half a chance they skip town. As you can see, there's a living monument to it at Soli at the top. But they didn't worry as much about the aesthetics. The forehead and chin on the Pixel 2 XL. The asymmetry here on the 4 XL with the Soli at the top. It was about providing a decent hardware experience, but then that nice and smooth software experience, which I really just wish they would get back to. Whatever they have to do. You have to optimize Tensor. Maybe you do have to swap to something else. I don't know. But I think Google's not going to get back to being Google and making the devices that, if we hand on heart, if we're honest with ourselves, Team Pixel, what would you prefer? The experience that you have now, with all the quirks that it has, or something back in the day like the 4XL? I don't know. Some people might pick the newer stuff because the newer hardware is quite nice. But software experience-wise, and what we used to get on Pixel, I'm picking the 4XL era. That, to me, was the way to go. If you've made it this far, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Until next time, have that Steve-licious day.